The grand arena of the alien capital was built to make every visitor feel small. Its walls were taller than mountains, its seats stretched into the clouds, and its echo carried the weight of 1,000 voices. The people came from every corner of the galaxy, dressed in strange colors and shapes, speaking in tones that clashed and blended like music from faraway worlds. They did not come to see a contest or a game. They came to see the dragon. The dragon was called the deadliest creature in the known stars. Whole fleets were said to have fallen when it rose from the darkness of space. Its wings stretched wider than warships, and its scales were harder than metal. Every alien child had grown up hearing stories of its fiery breath and its merciless rage. The arena was the only place to see it now, and even here it was bound by heavy chains. Those chains were not ordinary. Each one glowed with strange blue light, forged from materials so rare that they could only be mined from dying stars. The dragon lay in the center of the arena, still and silent, but every movement of its chest sent shivers across the crowd. Even while resting, it carried a storm within. No alien dared to look into its eyes. The stories said its gaze was more dangerous than its fire. One glance into those golden eyes and the strongest heart would turn weak. Soldiers who had faced it in battle claimed they dropped their weapons before even fighting. Parents whispered to their children, warning them to never stare too long, or their courage would vanish forever. The crowd gathered that day to remind themselves that the galaxy was safe, that the beast was chained, and that their rulers had power over even the greatest terror. The rulers stood high above in their balcony, proud and calm, but there was always fear hiding behind their ceremony. They never stayed too long. Among the crowd, hidden between taller figures, stood a small human girl named Mira. She was younger than most in the audience, no older than 8. Her guardians had brought her to see the great arena as part of their travels. They warned her to stay close, to keep her head down, and to never ever look at the dragon for more than a moment. But Mira was different from the others. Where alien children clung to their parents, hiding behind robes and scales, Mira leaned forward. Her wide eyes searched for the shape of the dragon. She wanted to see what everyone feared. She wanted to understand why a creature that looked so strong was chained like a criminal. The first time she saw it, her breath caught. The dragon was larger than she imagined. Its body was covered with sharp black scales that glowed faintly under the arena lights. Its wings folded against its sides looked like the sails of a ship waiting for wind. And then there were its eyes. They were not closed as most expected. They were open, glowing like twin suns. They searched the crowd slowly, heavy with age and silence. Every alien that noticed quickly turned away. Some covered their faces. Some even left the arena, unwilling to risk more than a single glance. But Mira did not look away. Her guardians tugged at her hand, whispering to stop. Yet her eyes stayed locked on the dragon's. And in that moment, something shifted. The dragon's chest rose higher, as if it had taken its first real breath in years. Its head turned slightly, slow and deliberate, until its gaze settled on her. The sound in the arena faded, as though the galaxy itself held its breath. The chains rattled faintly, echoing like thunder across stone. Every eye in the arena turned toward the small human girl, who did not look away. The rulers rose in alarm, their guards tense and ready. The alien crowd gasped in disbelief, murmurs running through them like waves. They had seen children faint from less, but here stood a human child, her face calm, her eyes steady, her heart unbroken. The dragon lowered its head just a little, as if in recognition. The chains groaned, not with anger, but with the weight of something ancient and forgotten. The arena shook with silence, and in that silence Mira smiled. It was the first smile the dragon had seen in centuries. The arena did not return to normal after that moment. For hours afterward, people whispered about what they had seen. Some claimed the dragon had bowed to the little human girl. Others insisted it was only a trick of the light, that no creature could be moved by a child. Yet none could deny what they had witnessed. The dragon had looked at her, and she had not looked away. Mira's guardians were frightened. They hurried her back to their lodging in the city, scolding her in sharp voices. They told her she had placed herself in danger, that the rulers might punish her for drawing the dragon's attention. But Mira only listened quietly, her eyes still bright with wonder. She was not thinking about punishment or fear. She was thinking about those golden eyes. That night, as the stars glowed above the alien capital, Mira sat by the window and looked out across the city. The towers shone with silver light, and the arena rose high like a mountain at the city's heart. She could not forget the way the dragon had moved, the slow lowering of its head and the silence that had fallen on thousands of voices. She wondered if the dragon had felt lonely, chained for so long. The next day, the city was alive with gossip. Traders in the market spoke of the fearless human child. Officials tried to deny the story, but the people passed it along in secret. It spread faster than the rulers could control. Alien children who had never dared to glance at the dragon whispered Mira's name, imagining her as braver than warriors. Mira's guardians wanted to leave the city quickly, but the girl begged them to stay. She said she wanted to see the dragon again. They refused at first, saying it was too dangerous, but Mira's determination wore them down. In the end, curiosity won, just as it always did with humans. The arena was quieter when she returned. Fewer people came that day, perhaps still shaken by what had happened before. The dragon remained where it had been, its massive body resting on the stone floor, its wings folded tight. The chains glowed softly in the dim light, reminding all that the beast was never free. Mira walked to the edge of the viewing line. Other children stayed far back, clutching at their parents, but she stood alone, her gaze steady. The dragon's eyes opened slowly. For a moment, they scanned the arena, uninterested. Then they found her. The same silence returned. It was not the silence of fear this time, but something heavier. The dragon tilted its head again, the faintest movement of curiosity. Its golden eyes seemed less fierce and more searching, as if it wanted to understand the little creature who dared to return. Mira lifted her small hand and gave a wave. The crowd gasped. To them, it looked like madness. But the dragon did not react with anger. Instead, its great chest rose and fell in a sound that was almost like a sigh. The guards shifted nervously, their weapons ready. They whispered to one another, unsure whether to stop the girl. Yet nothing dangerous happened. The dragon remained calm, watching her with the patience of mountains. That night, Mira asked her guardians a question. Why do they call it the deadliest dragon? Her guardians hesitated, then explained the stories they had heard. Long ago, the dragon had destroyed fleets that tried to capture it. Entire armies had fallen in its shadow. To the galaxy, it was seen as a monster that no one could control. That was why it had been chained, locked in the arena forever. But Mira shook her head. If it wanted to destroy us, it would have done it yesterday, she said softly. It looked sad, not angry. Her guardians dismissed her words as the thoughts of a child. Still, doubt crept into their minds. They remembered the dragon's sigh, the way it had bowed its head. Perhaps the girl saw something the rest of them had missed. In the following days, Mira returned again and again. Sometimes she sat quietly. Sometimes she spoke softly, as if telling the dragon little stories about her day. She told it about the colors of the market, the taste of sweet fruit, and the way the city lights sparkled at night. The dragon never answered, yet its eyes never left her when she was there. The people of the city began to notice. More and more visitors came to watch, not the dragon, but the girl. They whispered that the beast seemed calmer when she was present. Some said her voice was like a key that unlocked something inside the creature. The rulers grew uneasy. They did not like the way the crowd looked at the dragon now. Fear had always given them power, but Mira's presence was changing that fear into curiosity. The rulers ordered guards to watch her closely. But they could not stop her from visiting. One evening, as the sun sank behind the towers, Mira leaned close to the viewing line and whispered, "You are not scary to me." The dragon's golden eyes glowed brighter in the fading light. For the first time, its massive tail shifted, scraping the stone floor like a slow heartbeat. The chains rattled softly, not in anger, but in answer. And once again, the arena was filled with silence. The arena had become different since Mira's visits. It was no longer only a place of fear. People now gathered not just to see the dragon, but to watch the little human girl who dared to face it. Some called her foolish, some called her brave, but none could deny that the creature behaved differently around her. On the third week of her visits, the crowd was larger than ever. Families filled the stone seats, merchants left their shops, and even scholars from distant worlds came to see the strange bond between child and beast. The rulers did not like the attention, but they could not stop the people. Curiosity was stronger than their orders. Mira walked through the gates with calm steps. She no longer hid behind her guardians, and she no longer needed to be pushed forward. She knew the path by heart. The guards standing by the viewing line tightened their grip on their weapons as she passed, but they did not speak. They had seen her many times now, and even they wondered if the stories about the dragon were all true. The dragon was waiting. Its body was still, but its eyes were awake, glowing softly in the shadows. The chains that bound its wings and neck seemed smaller when Mira stood before it. She was so small, yet she filled the silence of the arena more than the rulers ever could. This time, Mira did not simply wave or speak from afar. She stepped closer to the edge, her face lifted high, her eyes fixed on the golden gaze of the dragon. She did not blink. She did not flinch. The arena grew quiet, as if every breath was held. The dragon leaned forward, its massive head lowered, scales scraping against the stone. The sound echoed like rolling thunder. Dust rose where its claws shifted. Still, Mira did not move away. Their eyes met fully. For the first time, the people saw it clearly. The dragon's gaze was not fire or fury. It was deep, endless, heavy with memory. Mira did not see a monster. She saw a sadness older than the city itself. She saw loneliness carved into golden eyes that had watched stars rise and fade. She felt a weight pressing on her heart, not of fear, but of sorrow. The crowd trembled. Some covered their faces, afraid of what might happen. Others whispered in awe. The rulers, watching from their high balcony, stood frozen. They had built their power on the dragon's image of terror. But now a human child was showing the galaxy that the beast was not what they claimed. Mira lifted her hand again, slow and steady. She pressed it to her chest and then stretched it out toward the dragon, a simple gesture of friendship. Gasps filled the arena. No one had ever dared to reach toward the creature. The dragon's eyes followed her hand. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the beast gave a low sound, deep and rumbling, not like a roar but like a sigh carried through mountains. The chains rattled as it shifted, lowering its head further, closer to her. It was a bow. The crowd erupted in noise. Some shouted in fear, others in amazement. The guards prepared for violence, but no attack came. Instead, the dragon remained still, its head lowered before the little girl, its golden eyes locked only on her. Mira smiled. It was small, gentle, yet powerful in its honesty. The smile of a child who did not see danger, only truth. And the dragon, the deadliest creature of the galaxy, accepted it. After that moment, nothing in the city felt the same. The scholars argued through the night. They studied old records and uncovered forgotten details. Some discovered ancient writings that suggested the dragon had once been hunted, not for its violence but for its strength. It had fought only when threatened, and it had been captured by force. The stories of its cruelty were not the whole truth. The common people began to talk openly. They said the rulers had lied, that the dragon was not a monster but a prisoner. They pointed to Mira as proof. If a child could stand unafraid and look into its eyes, then maybe the galaxy had been wrong for centuries. The rulers grew restless. Their power depended on fear, and fear was slipping away. They whispered in hidden chambers about how to control the story. Some suggested removing the girl, while others warned that harming her would only turn the people against them. But Mira knew nothing of these plans. She only thought about the dragon. Every night she dreamed of golden eyes filled with sadness, and every morning she wanted to return. She felt a bond, one that could not be explained by logic or history. It was not the bond of a warrior and a beast, but of two lonely souls finding each other in a world that had forgotten them. The arena was no longer a cage of fear. It had become a stage for something new, something powerful, and at the center of it all stood a small human girl and a chained dragon, their eyes meeting across the silence, reshaping the way the galaxy saw both of them. The city was restless. Since the day the dragon bowed its head to Mira, nothing had felt normal. Markets still opened, ships still landed, and rulers still gave their speeches, but everywhere people whispered. In every corner of the city, voices spoke of the dragon and the little human girl. Some whispered with hope, others with fear, but no one stayed silent. The rulers sat in their high chambers, watching the growing change with unease. For generations, their power had come from the story of the dragon. They had told their people that the beast was the greatest danger in the galaxy, that only their chains and their rule kept everyone safe. But now one child had shaken that story. If the dragon was not a monster, what did that mean for the rulers? While the leaders argued, the scholars searched. They dug into old records stored deep beneath the city, records so ancient that dust covered their tablets and crystal carvings. Most of the records were forgotten tales, but among them were fragments of truth. They found maps of destroyed fleets, notes of battles fought long ago, and journals of captains who had faced the dragon. Yet as they read, a new picture began to form. The dragon had not attacked without reason. It had fought only when hunted. Again and again, fleets had come to capture it, and again it had defended itself. The beast that had been called the galaxy's greatest enemy was not an enemy at all. It had been a victim of fear and greed. This discovery spread quietly at first, carried in whispers among the scholars. Then merchants repeated it, and travelers carried it to distant worlds. The story of Mira and the dragon grew even larger, now wrapped in the possibility that the galaxy had been wrong all along. Mira herself knew nothing of the arguments happening in chambers and libraries. She only knew what she felt each time she stood before the dragon. Each day she visited, and each day she spoke a little longer. Sometimes she told stories about her home, the small garden her guardians kept, or the stars she had seen on their travels. Sometimes she simply sat in silence, letting the dragon watch her without fear. The bond grew. When Mira laughed, the dragon's eyes glowed brighter. When Mira frowned, the dragon shifted uneasily. The guards noticed. The crowds noticed. The arena, once a place of dread, now felt almost like a meeting place where two lives reached for one another across the barrier of chains. But the rulers could not ignore what was happening. They gathered one night in a tall tower lit by cold blue lamps. Their voices clashed as they argued about the child. "She makes the beast look gentle," one ruler said. "The people are losing their fear. Without fear, they will no longer obey us." "Remove her," another said quickly. "Send her away or silence her voice forever." Others shook their heads. "If we harm her, the people will turn against us. Already they question our stories. If the girl is taken by force, they will believe her more than ever." "So what then?" the first ruler demanded. "Do we allow her to undo centuries of power?" No agreement came that night. They left the chamber unsettled, each ruler fearful not of the dragon but of a small human girl who saw with clear eyes what they could not admit. Meanwhile, in the city below, the people continued to talk. Children drew pictures of Mira standing beside the dragon. Traders carved small wooden figures of the beast bowing its head. Songs began to spread, simple tunes that told the story of a girl who smiled at the deadliest creature in the stars. Hope was growing, and hope was dangerous to those who ruled by fear. One evening, as the sun turned the sky gold, Mira sat again before the dragon. She pressed her hands together and whispered, "I know you are not evil." The dragon's eyes glowed with a soft light, and for the first time, it made a sound that was not a sigh or a growl. It was deep, gentle, and almost like a hum. The chains rattled as it shifted closer, lowering its head so near that Mira could see her own reflection in its eyes. The crowd that watched fell silent. They did not see a monster. They saw a bond that no ruler could explain. That night, as Mira dreamed of golden eyes and warm hums, the scholars gathered once more. They placed the old records on the table and spoke in quiet voices. "The truth is clear. The dragon is not our enemy. It is a prisoner." And in that moment they realized that the galaxy's greatest secret was no longer hidden. The truth was rising, carried by a human child and a dragon's eyes. The city no longer felt the same. Streets once filled with fear now carried songs and whispers of hope. Children painted the dragon on walls, not with fire and rage, but with golden eyes and bowed head. Merchants carved charms of Mira standing tall, and travelers carried them to other worlds. Everywhere the story spread, but the rulers were restless. They watched the change with heavy hearts, their control slipping through their fingers. Fear had been their strongest weapon, and fear was fading. If the people no longer believed in the terror of the dragon, then the rulers' chains would not hold forever. In their tall chambers, they argued again. Some demanded the girl be removed. Others warned that any harm to her would turn the people against them. After long debate, they agreed on one plan. They would surround the girl with guards not to protect her, but to control her visits. They believed if they limited her time with the dragon, the bond would weaken. Yet bonds are not built on time alone. Mira came again to the arena, her steps light, her heart steady. She noticed more guards than before, standing in lines with their weapons ready, but she did not fear them. Her eyes searched for the dragon, and when she saw its golden gaze, all else faded away. The dragon lowered its head before her, chains rattling with each movement. The crowd gasped as they always did, but the sound was softer now, less fearful, more filled with wonder. Mira smiled and sat near the edge of the viewing line, her small hands resting on her knees. "Today I brought you something," she whispered. From her bag, she pulled a small flower she had picked outside the city gates. Its petals were white with a touch of blue. She held it up proudly. The dragon's eyes followed the flower. For a moment its gaze softened, and its chest rose in a sound like a low breath. Mira placed the flower on the stone just beyond the reach of her hands. The wind carried it a little closer to the dragon's claws. The people gasped as the dragon shifted, curling one massive claw around the flower. It did not crush it. Instead, it held the fragile bloom with surprising care. For the first time, the galaxy's deadliest creature looked gentle. Mira leaned forward. "See, you are not a monster. You are my friend." The dragon gave a deep rumble, almost like a soft song, and lowered its head again, closer than ever before. The chains glowed with strain, but the beast did not pull against them in anger. It simply wanted to be near her. The bond was no longer just seen in their eyes. It was written in every movement, every breath. A child and a dragon drawn together not by fear but by trust. The people cheered quietly, some even clapping. The guards shifted uneasily, unsure if they should stop what they saw. But they could not deny the power of the moment. That night the rulers argued once more. Some feared the bond had become too strong. "If the beast listens to her, then she could command it," one ruler warned. "What if she turns it against us?" But another ruler shook his head. "No, she has shown the people the truth. If we fight her, we fight the people. The bond cannot be broken by chains or threats." While they spoke in fear, Mira dreamed peacefully. In her dream, she walked beside the dragon, not chained, not feared, but free under the stars. The next morning, she returned again. This time, she brought a small drawing. With careful strokes, she had drawn herself standing beside the dragon, its head bowed, its eyes soft. She held it high, showing it proudly. The dragon stared at the picture for a long time. Then it gave a sound deeper and warmer than before, a sound that filled the arena like a song. The crowd went silent. Tears filled the eyes of some who watched. It was not the sound of a monster. It was the sound of a soul. The bond was complete. No words, no chains, no rulers could deny it anymore. A little human girl and the galaxy's deadliest dragon had found each other. Not as enemies, but as friends, and in that bond, the galaxy itself began to change. The city slept under the pale light of distant stars, but in the hearts of its rulers, fear did not rest. The bond between Mira and the dragon had grown stronger than anyone had imagined. Rumors spread through the streets like fire. People whispered of the child who could calm the deadliest beast in the galaxy. Some even claimed she could command it with her words alone. The rulers could no longer ignore the change. They met in secret chambers far above the city streets, their voices tense and low. "We must act before the bond grows too strong," one said. "The people trust her more than us, and if the dragon is freed, nothing will stop her." Another ruler shook his head. "We cannot harm her. The people will rise. They see the truth now. She has shown them what we have hidden for generations. We must find another way." Plans were made. Guards were instructed to block Mira from entering the arena during the day. Curfews were announced. Soldiers were stationed near the gates. They hoped that if they limited her visits, the bond would weaken. But Mira did not give up. The next morning, she rose early, her small feet carrying her swiftly through the city streets. She noticed the extra guards and the closed gates, but she did not stop. She found a narrow path along the walls where few could see her. Her heart beat fast, but determination was stronger than fear. When she arrived at the arena, the dragon was waiting. Its golden eyes glowed softly in the dim light. Chains held it still, but it moved slightly as she approached. Mira smiled and whispered, "I will not leave you. Not today. Not ever." The dragon rumbled in response, a deep and gentle sound that filled the empty space. It lowered its head so close that Mira could feel the warmth of its breath. The chains rattled, but the creature did not resist. It had learned to trust her. The guards watched from a distance, confused and nervous. They could not understand how a child had so much control over the galaxy's greatest weapon. Some wanted to intervene, but something in the dragon's eyes stopped them. It was not anger. It was patience and trust. Suddenly, a loud alarm rang through the city. A fleet of ships approached from beyond the horizon. Their markings were unfamiliar, but their intent was clear. They carried weapons and fire, and the people of the city panicked. This was no ordinary attack. The dragon stirred, sensing the danger immediately. Its golden eyes flashed and its massive wings flexed against the chains. Mira looked at the approaching ships. She did not feel fear. Instead, she felt a surge of courage. "We can help," she said softly. The dragon tilted its head, understanding her words in a way that no one else could. The people watched as the little human girl climbed onto the platform nearest to the dragon. She reached out and touched its massive snout. The beast lowered its head, leaning into her hands. A deep hum rose from its chest, filling the arena with a sound that echoed like rolling thunder. The first ships fired, and bright beams of light lit the sky. The dragon roared, not in anger, but in warning. Its chains rattled and glowed, resisting the pull of its strength. Mira held on, steady and calm. She whispered again, "We must protect the city." The dragon's eyes locked on hers. In that moment, the bond was stronger than chains, stronger than fear, and stronger than any weapon. With a powerful push of its wings, the dragon leapt against the chains. Sparks flew from the glowing links, and the beast rose into the air, still tethered but moving freely enough to face the approaching fleet. The crowd gasped. Aliens and humans alike watched in awe as the dragon and the little girl became one force. Mira's hands rested on its massive head, guiding it with her courage and trust. Together they prepared to defend the city. The rulers, hiding in their towers, could not stop what was happening. Their fear had become real. The child they thought was harmless had awakened something greater than any army. The dragon, once feared as the deadliest in the galaxy, now fought not for destruction, but for protection, guided by the bravery of a human child. In the sky above the city, the first attack from the fleet was met with the dragon's might. Fire lit the darkness, but Mira did not scream. She stood steady, her voice clear as she spoke to the dragon. The city held its breath, watching as history unfolded. In that moment, everyone understood. Fear was no longer the ruler of the city. Courage, trust, and the bond between a child and a dragon had changed everything. The rising storm was not only the fleet. It was the dawn of a new hope, carried on golden eyes and wings of fire. The city trembled as the enemy fleet advanced. Ships filled the sky, their engines roaring like 1,000 storms. Bright beams of light cut across the clouds, and the ground shook from distant explosions. People ran through the streets seeking shelter, but hope was not lost. Above the city, the dragon rose, its massive wings slicing through the air, guided by the courage of a small human girl. Mira stood firm atop the platform, her hands on the dragon's scaled snout. Her voice was calm, steady, and clear. "We can do this together," she whispered. The dragon lowered its head slightly, as if nodding in agreement. The bond between them was no longer just trust. It had become strength, uniting child and beast as one force. The first of the enemy ships fired. Beams of energy crashed toward the city, lighting the skies like lightning. The dragon roared, not in anger but in command. Its wings spread wide and sparks flew from the chains that still tethered it. With a sudden leap, the dragon struck the first ship with its massive claws. Metal twisted, engines exploded, and the ship tumbled through the sky. Mira held tightly, feeling every movement. She spoke softly, guiding the dragon with her heart. "Turn left, rise higher, protect them." Each word, simple as it was, carried power. The dragon obeyed not because it had to, but because it wanted to. It had learned to trust her completely. The city watched in awe. Citizens who had cowered behind walls and gates now looked up with wide eyes. They saw the impossible happening. The deadliest dragon in the galaxy, once feared by all, was defending them. And a little human girl, no taller than a child could be, was leading the creature with courage unmatched by any army. The enemy fleet tried to surround the dragon. Multiple ships attacked from all sides, firing beams and missiles. The dragon twisted and turned, dodging each attack while Mira's guidance kept it focused. She had learned to sense the movements of the beast, feeling each beat of its wings, each shift of its massive body. Together they were unstoppable. The dragon unleashed its fire, not recklessly but carefully. Ships that threatened the city were burned away in bursts of golden flame. The air filled with smoke, sparks, and the sound of metal breaking. Mira's voice was steady, calm, giving courage to the people below. They began to cheer, shouting encouragement, and the morale of the city rose. The rulers, hidden in their towers, watched in disbelief. Their centuries of power built on fear had crumbled in a single day. A human child had shown the true strength of courage and trust. The dragon, once the symbol of terror, was now the symbol of hope. The battle raged on. The enemy fleet regrouped, but the dragon and Mira were faster, wiser, and united. The dragon struck the last ship in the fleet with one mighty sweep of its tail, sending it spinning into the void. Mira held on, smiling despite the wind and smoke. She had never been afraid, only determined. When the sky cleared, the city was safe. Smoke rose in the distance, but the people cheered. Citizens ran to the arena, rushing to see the dragon and the girl who had saved them. The dragon landed gently, lowering its head so Mira could step down. She looked into its golden eyes and whispered, "We did it together." The dragon rumbled softly, a sound like laughter and song mixed into one. Its massive body settled onto the stone floor and the chains no longer seemed heavy. They had been strong, but the bond between Mira and the dragon had been stronger. People gathered around. Children reached out to touch the dragon and adults bowed in respect. The arena, once a place of fear and chains, had become a place of celebration and wonder. Mira smiled at the crowd, her small hand resting on the dragon's snout. She had proven that courage and kindness could tame even the deadliest creature in the galaxy. The rulers stepped forward, unsure of what to say. They had feared the dragon, feared the child, and feared the truth. Now they understood that true power was not in fear or control, but in trust and bravery. They nodded to Mira, offering their respect, knowing the city had changed forever. That night, the city celebrated. Lights sparkled in every street, songs filled the air, and the dragon lay beside Mira, calm and gentle. She whispered to it stories of her travels, of gardens and stars, and it listened as if it understood every word. The people slept peacefully, for the deadliest dragon was no longer a threat, but a guardian. Mira had changed the galaxy in a single day. The dragon, once feared by all, had found friendship, and the people had learned that courage was the greatest power of all. And in the quiet of the night, when the city slept, Mira looked up at the stars and whispered, "We were brave, and together we are stronger." The bond they shared would not be forgotten. Across the galaxy, stories spread of a little human girl and the deadliest dragon, proving that courage, trust, and kindness could overcome even the greatest fear. And in every heart that heard the story, hope began to grow.